What is going on, everybody? Welcome to week 5 of Francess and Friends, where you just patiently waiting there to say, is it going to be on this week? Is it going to make it to next week? Well, it did make it to week 5. I made it to the bye weeks. That's pretty good. That's a lot better than some starting quarterbacks out there, or at least some that probably should have been benched. You know, they thought that Justin Fields might have been benched, but that's not looking like it's coming anytime soon after that game last night. But, you know, when Game of Thrones was on, the producers said they didn't know if it was going to get picked up. It was very weird at first. Is everyone going to love this medieval fantasy lore? But they just prayed. We just need to make it to the Red Wedding. We got to get there, and if we can get there, we'll be good. Same type of thing here. I feel like if I can just get to a certain point, but maybe the Red Wedding is probably not the best analogy. That's not what we're looking for ever in terms of sports betting, is anything that resembles the Red Wedding. Last night, we had a Thursday night football game that proves why the NFL is a bunch of things. Why it's king, why it's unbelievably difficult to predict and bet. And we'll take a look at that game. We'll look at games on this upcoming slate, and I'm going to bring on Eytan and Eric. You know him as Lindy. I called him Lindy's Leaks because he was dealing with some leak in his piping in his studio, but I think he's got that addressed. I know he's going to be grinding all weekend because he's got all these baseball bets that are cashing for all you. Maybe I'll even ask him for one. No, I'm not. I'd rather not have any money than have to endure some baseball games, even for the playoffs. How do you like that? But last night, if you were one of those people who played against DJ Moore or Justin Fields in fantasy, I do feel bad for you. I saw a couple memes going around. I secretly was happy because I took my licks last week. I lost against somebody who was losing every week because they had DJ Moore and Justin Fields. Then, of course, they play me, and I just was so pissed. But now it was good seeing other people walk the plank last night. But if you look at that game last night, when I come on here and I talk about, hey, we got to try to sniff out these rats, sniff them out, it's for great reason. Just look at the narrative surrounding that game last night. Like, oh my God, the Bears have lost X amount of straight games. They can't win. Justin Fields, maybe one game against Denver, and then they go out there, they win by 20 points on the road against Washington. There are plenty of these situations. Just if you're a youngster out there, think about these first 4 weeks. Think about these every single week. You have teams who are almost like double-digit underdogs, not only covering, but straight up winning outright, as my headphone falls out of my ear. And then, see, they don't want you to know this. They're like, come on, man, this is just for you. We can't have other people know. I got Vegas. They're taking over my ear, you know, kind of like some Ocean's 11 stuff where they're interfering with the signal. No, but just looking at that game last night, I did not have a good betting night with my odd shopper picks, but that was one of those games. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not one of those people who think you should just bet every single game, but because it's an island game and it's on a Thursday night, I'll try to give you some of my best sniffs. But just like most people, I thought the Bears would get down. Roschon Johnson would see the field. He'd get a couple of catches. He gets a concussion. Washington throws 800 times. McLaurin doesn't even get to his over on receiving yards. Not the best day for me. But that's the kind of day in a game like that when you're playing two bad teams. I don't care if it's hockey. I'm not sure. I don't watch enough basketball, but when you get two bad teams playing each other, the range of it could have been 13-9 or 35-31, and we got the latter, and it's very difficult to predict. So in those types of situations, that's usually when I kind of defer to like odd shopper premium. That's when I can use the analytics. I got my sniffs for all the stuff that I know, but when you have these, what's going to happen in New Orleans versus New England this weekend? You think you know? Actually, I do think I have an idea, but we'll get to that in a little bit. The first thing I do want to tell you is we still got a promotion available for you to use on Bet365. You ready? It's a 3-part deal. Deposit 10, bet 5, get 150. Hey, you know, sometimes you got to go 1, 2, 3. Deposit 10, bet 5, and you'll get 150. You know, you won so much from them the last 2 weeks with that Bet 365 original promotion. Bet one, get 365. Now they're like, oh my God, these guys are killing us. Let's make them jump through a hoop or two. Very simple. Deposit 10, bet 5, get 150. And then we can tell you what to put them on throughout the course of this weekend. Last week, I ranted and raved about, you know, a bunch of nonsense. So this week, I thought it was maybe a little better to just go into some of these games, talk a little more games for those of you who just want to start jotting down what you think should happen this weekend. But like I said, the truth is, the NFL, you always have to implement that strategy. It's not like any of this, especially like in hockey, for example. Offensive confidence because they're playing and defensive confidence, goaltending. Every other night, you get into a groove. Get into the groove. And then it just continues. And that's why you have teams go on these 12-1 streaks. Other than a couple of teams in the NFL where you know what you're getting every week in and out, there's just such unpredictability. Don't make me reference the Cowboys losing on the road to Arizona. So that type of thing happens so much. So just remember that before you start cursing at the screen, how many rats have been sprinkled across the board? I've just been shooting at the wrong ducks, but I'm still going to continue because I've seen this go on for decades. It's going to be interesting to see what Eytan and Eric think about this upcoming weekend and what they have to bring to the board. I'll show you some of the betting favorites that I've seen, because this is one of those weeks I really feel like I have a good read in terms of what could potentially be out there that could screw you. If you're a parlayer, and there's one thing I know about people who watch this sports betting channel, you're a bunch of parlayers. If you're a parlayer and you're a regular guy and you're betting on side, I'm taking this team and that team and that team and that team. There are so many parlay busters on that board this week. And I just want to show you, I put together some of the betting favorites from a couple of the major sports books. And you can see with your own eyes, overwhelming percentages. The first one I'm looking at right there. Well, first of all, 87% of the bets on Dolphins, or 93% of the. I believe if you've bet every double-digit underdog since the beginning of time, you are over 50%. In the NFL, it's just great. And you think about the Giants, a home embarrassment on primetime. That's always the best time to take an underdog. Now, that's not necessarily one, but look at that next one. You got 83 and 88% on the Buffalo Bills, -5. You think everybody doesn't know the Bills look like world beaters last week against Miami? But now just think. The Jaguars are sitting out there in London eating their tea and crumpets. They're ready for the time zone differences. You ever watch those UFC fights? Remember when Gaethje showed up a little late to fight Khabib? He got waxed. They got that time differential down. They've been there for a week. Now you got Buffalo on the back of a huge home win, traveling over there. Do I think they could win? Yeah, but watch them win by 3. Watch Buffalo win this game by 3, if at all. I know it's a little bit scary to get on the Jaguars. They haven't looked great in a single game this year. But it's the right side in this game. Look at all. Did you see those percentage? 87%, 83%. Every idiot you've ever known in your life is there. Do you want to show up with them to the party, or do you want to sneak into the Chateau Marmont like me to that Johnny Depp Rum Diaries after party? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go listen to episode 2. I talked about how I snuck in there and faked like I was staying at the Chateau Marmont and then weaseled my way over into an after party because I am, in fact, a dirtbag on YouTube. Hey, if I was in the Rum Diaries, I wouldn't have to sneak in, but I'm here with you, so that's what we're going to have to do. Some of these other games that you see on there, how about the Chiefs? Now, I think that's up to 4.5, 5.5. Tell me that doesn't reek of them winning by 3. Niners, -3.5. Tell me that doesn't reek of them winning by 3. this is the parlay buster week. And I'm just telling you, buyer beware. Buyer beware if you're going to put a bunch of these picks together. Just know major ret potential. I heard Bill Burr, he's one of my favorite comedians. I guess he talks to I forget what it is, but he was talking some sports betting. And last week he took the Bills because, they were gassing up the Dolphins. He goes, the last time I checked, the lights are always running in Vegas. He goes, they know what they're doing out there. I'm taking the Bills. Same type of thing with so many of those. Every time you see something that's just jumping off at you, just remember those lights are always running in Vegas. Over the last week, there's something I just wanted to touch on Monday night, Sunday night. I, along with you and probably everybody, including Mike, were watching the Taylor Swift Bowl, the Jets and the Chiefs. Right, Mike? I would imagine another one of these riveting games. But the plethora of claims that come out after that game about this being rigged, the Taylor Swift this and all that, and then Patrick Mahomes taking the knee on the one. Do people even realize they're canceling out their own claims? So if it's rigged to have the flag go up so that the Chiefs win, how is it also then rigged that Mahomes slides inside the 5 and doesn't cover? Are you saying it's double rigged? Because if it was rigged in terms of the Chiefs not covering, then the interception would have stood. So I don't understand what people. There was a game with those same New York Jets. It may have been last season. Where the Browns, with a couple minutes left, Chubb ran in a touchdown. They were up by 16 with 2 minutes left, and they ended up losing the game because they gave them the ball back, went down and scored, got the onside kick, scored again, and it was something crazy like that. You think Patrick Mahomes cares if all you people covered your Chiefs bets? He obviously wants to win in a game he was playing like crap. You need to get that rigging stuff out of your head, because it works every way. You sound like those people, and I think there should be a show about this. You ever watch poker? Everyone always wants to talk about their bad beats. There should be a DraftKings should have won the millionaire show. I think about this all the time. If you've ever been ascending in tournaments towards the top of the standings, every pass starts meaning thousands of dollars. If you're in the top of a major field tournament and you're in the top 20, let's say, getting to 18 is now you're up another $2,000 and another $2,000 and another $5,000. Every catch means everything. And I think of every single person who was in the millionaire, but then a call got overturned. There have to be countless stories, because at the top of those leaderboards, many times the win is by a percentage point. And I think that would be the funniest, but it would only be the funniest. And this really is miserable of me watching it live, watching that emotional roller coaster live of somebody dipping out of the million. And that's if a 4-point play is taken back, you go down to 2,000, something wild when you're talking about those major field tournaments. Is that a show you would tune into?
Yeah. Who Wants to Lose a Millionaire? I'd watch that show. And another thing I was thinking while you were on your rant, nobody complains it's rigged when they win. As my dad would say, losers, bitch.
That's just how our brains are wired. I remember Tony Parker, after they beat the crap out of the Heat in the finals, they said, well, what do you remember that this year late? He goes, I just remember last year. I remember last year because we blew it. The way the human mind is wired, we just remember getting screwed way more. When things go right, we just say, yeah, that's the way it should have been. That's what I thought, and that's what happened, and that's the way it should have been. But when things don't go right, I do think there's some a biological element, the same way putting your hand by a fire. When you get screwed, it stays with you because you try to avoid future screw jobs. Your brain's I don't want to feel that again. What the hell just happened? And Mahomes slid inside the 5. That's what just happened. But don't ever be one of those people. for every bet you're getting screwed on, somebody else is getting lucky on, if you know what I'm saying. And after 10 years, it will all even out in the end. Let's stop worrying about past bets. Instead we'll check in with Eytan, who not only is a great sports bettor, but he's a great dad.
No.
Because how do you know?
Trust me, I'm 2 years into this. I would not use the word great as far as to describe my fatherhood so far.
Hey,
Andy,
look,
but I appreciate it.
Great is subjective, man. Justin Fields, he was great. Is he great?
Last night
I don't know, but he was great. Hey, that's it. This is being a dad is a day-by-day job, and today, right now, you're great.
All right, well,
dude, Tony the Tiger thinks everyone's great.
That's true. That is true. So we walked about, this is a daily occurrence now with my son, which is why I'm holding him for this, is because we walk about, I don't know, about a mile or so downhill. He's great. He pushes this cozy coupe. He runs. I can't keep up with him. He's laughing. He's loving life. As soon as it's time to turn around and go back up that hill, he magically has a boo-boo and he can't walk. And he's looking like somebody who faked an injury to stop the clock where there's less than 2 minutes to go on the field. It's happened now 6 times today. So
your son is Jonathan Taylor?
Seriously, he wants out of this family, and he's doing everything he can to hold out.
Or I don't know, or is it like TJ Hawkinson? He just doesn't like the allowance you're giving him, doesn't like the things that you're doing with him every single week, and he has contractitis every time he's going up that hill.
So it's funny you bring this up. I had Weimaraners, and if anybody knows what type of dogs those are, the gray ghosts, they're like the best soul you can find as far as any animal, right? They're just amazing dogs, and every single time they would meet a stranger, they would just go. And I'd be like, somebody could rob me with a piece of meat and my dogs would willingly go with them. My son is the exact same way. The exact same way. Any stranger, he has no stranger danger. And any stranger he meets, it's like, this is my new family now.
Hey, you keep coming with those good picks like you did last time. I think he's going to stick around just like I'm sticking around.
We'll try.
So how did last night fare? What wasn't good for old Andy?
Well, for me it was. So I got the side right, So Washington, we got it at 6.5. That was fine. I got burned.
Or what? You had the Bears? You mean?
Oh no. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Chicago 6.5. We had that, so that was fine on the Discord. That was the unit bet that we hit. And then, stupid stuff, right? Like I lose a quarter unit on some DraftKings special that I burned, and my 50.
The thing that they put on the top of the page.
Yeah, like one of these boosts. It wasn't like I boosted a ridiculous like 3-leg touchdown.
You gotcha. I do like those, but those things they try to dance.
No.
At the front of the page. I call it the hot girl. I call it the hot girl asking you to prom. Like, is that really what happens? No, not at all.
No, I'm not going to be the one.
That's Donnie Brasco.
Exactly right. Exactly. I know a Fugazi when I see one, sir.
Well, then you're going to tell me which bets are Fugazis this weekend, because I just had that board pulled up of these massive public favorites, and you got to see these overwhelming percentages on major sportsbook bet on the same couple of teams. These are from different sportsbooks. So if we can pull that up again, we got this is from MGM and DraftKings. I don't know. Are you seeing that now?
No, but you talk through it. Michael put it up for me, if not.
Okay, yeah. So, now it's there. Now it's there.
I got it.
So you're talking about 93% on the Dolphins, 87% on the Dolphins, 83% on the Bills, 88% on the Bills. And the way I look, what I was just saying is they're a team who just had like that major, like awesome emotional win. Then they're going over there to a team that is already used to that time zone, sipping tea and crumpets all week.
Yep.
They're probably feeling good. Like this is a potential letdown, not necessarily that they're going to lose. And the Jaguars haven't played great all season, really. But when you think about games you could potentially step up, all the Sanderson sisters. It's Halloween season after all their hocus pocus brew, the elements lead to potentially covering that spread as underdog.
Can I readily admit something, by the way? I'm 45 in December, and I'm married now for a couple of years. So 41 years old was the first time that I ever experienced hocus pocus. And like my wife is about 8.5 years younger than me. Is that strange to you? I know the reference. I get the reference now, but for 41 years of my life, Andy, I had no idea what the hell that was.
I'll say this, as I stated I'm not the fan of a football team for the same reason you probably didn't enjoy Hocus Pocus that much. Unless you're a child and you watched it, and then it just holds that emotional key in your heart. Do you know there's nothing in my life, nothing in my life. You can give me whoever, Taylor Swift, I swear to you. She called me and goes, Andy, Travis ain't cutting it for me. I want a random guy doing a YouTube show in the studio that he built by himself. No major potential for fame. I want you instead. I want to go under the radar. That wouldn't make me even remotely emotionally as invested as the Game 7 of the Islanders Tampa Bay 0-0 halfway through the game. It just couldn't. And that's what childhood investment does. People go to therapists for 20 years because they say, tell me what happened when you were a kid. That's how much it shows itself in your adult years. And I wouldn't expect you to have hocus pocus even remotely register on your scale. So I don't know. Maybe you did enjoy it, but as an adult, did you enjoy Hocus Pocus that much?
No, I thought it was stupid.
Yeah, there you go. That would have been great if you're like, no, that's actually my all-time favorite. I'm having a 27x40 poster frame.
You're a movie guy. I'm not insulting you. You're a movie guy first. I'm not insulting you on that one. Trust me.
So let's go back to those Fugazis.
Yes.
I just thought that was an interesting thing to ask you about.
No,
that
I
game.
think it's great. By the way, so real quick, I jumped on it when the schedule opened and you were able to jump and look ahead. I jumped on Jacksonville at 3.5 because I figured that, two things. One, that they'd be a little bit better than they are so far, but also that what you mentioned, that they're sticking around for that week. Buffalo had a big one, as we know, before that. So now they head overseas. It does seem let down-ish. I know that's moved to 5.5. The reality is I'm fine with my position until that hits 6. And then I would have a little bit of, I guess, reluctance or remorse in the way back that maybe I jumped on it.
You see how upset everyone is, though, about like the fate when you bet against the favorites? Look at your kid. I was about to say, your kid's crying. No, don't make me take Jacksonville. It's still 98 degrees down there.
See, that's his fault for not being alive when Doug Peterson won the Super Bowl here, because he would no Philadelphia ever fielding Doug Peterson unless they simply weren't alive for the Super Bowl. Well, give him a little bit.
So on your board, what are you bringing to the audience this week? And if somebody missed your show and you had like one major takeaway, I try to absorb powers here, like a little bit. I want to Earth, fire, wind, water, little Captain Planet over here. So on your show, last time the Packers were fully off my radar early in the I was like, I got to see who these people are. Maybe you have something that I'm just kind of glazing right by.
So, okay, I like 3 teams, and I will say this, as far as Buffalo and actually it's Miami and Detroit are concerned, what I did is I teased I teased Chicago. I keep calling them Washington. I don't know why. I teased the Bears up to 14 and then teased both Detroit and Miami down. So I am with you where I would not play those 2 spreads as is, but I do think that there's value with Miami and Detroit teased down, especially if you can get them below 3, that key number. So with that said, what I think is for me the best, I'm sorry, if he weren't faking this injury, I'd be home by now and in front of my computer, but
no,
I don't want to leave you hanging. So here's the thing. I'll go in order of love to the FMK, right, of it. The number one play for me is actually going to be Houston. I cannot, at some point, CJ Stroud is going to come back down to earth. I understand that. But CJ Stroud is a better quarterback than Desmond Ridder right now. And it's only been a month. And CJ Stroud has done it with less in front of him than Desmond Ridder has done it. So I look at this game and I'm more confident, even though D'Amico Ryans has only coached for a couple of games, I'm more confident in his defensive game plan than I am in Arthur Smith's offensive game plan. I'm more confident in C.J. Stroud, no matter who's in front of him. They just handled the Steelers front with a third-string left tackle last week. C.J. Stroud's probably going to throw an interception in the next week or two, but so far he hasn't, and everybody keeps doubting him like, oh, he's a rookie, the league's going to keep up. I tell you, Andy, that's the number. I've got 3 that I really like. That's my favorite of the 3.
You know what's amazing? Every time I bring you guys on, it's like it's always these games where my personal thought always goes like, "Oh my God, how can I possibly know?" Because Tennessee, I'm sorry, that's a separate
Houston.
game. Yeah, Houston, Atlanta. Well, because I was thinking Tennessee, Indianapolis, because they had played in the past. But a couple weeks ago, Atlanta versus Green Bay, and then when Lofty brought that in, and then you picked Green Bay when that was week 1 over Chicago. These are games where I'm always like, oh man, I could see these going either way. So I'm happy that you bring ones like that to the table because I'm just so undecided. Houston has looked good pretty much every single week, but Atlanta at home has kind of played all right, and they found a way to win some of those games, and maybe Ritter's not going to need to throw as much if they get the running game going and the D plays. It's just it's tough, but I really like that you bring it to the table because I wouldn't have had an opinion on that game.
So the one thing about the run game is leading up to that London game, I would wholeheartedly agree with you and say, hey, if Atlanta gets 100 plus on the ground, forget about it. They've already proven that they can win football games. They had a pretty good game on the ground. Now, granted, game script and all, but that's their fault. They were down. They had a pretty good game on the ground, and they still got work. So that's a little, maybe if you're looking for an edge or a slight thing to kind of break the tie in your head, that was a little thing for me on that. Oh, yeah. I got another one that you're going to love, by the way.
Come on. Man, you would be great on the Wolf of Wall Street. You would be right. I got one you're going to love. I got one you're gonna love. All right, hit me with it.
All right, so NFL, when things are even, equal, plus 110, even money, minus 110, I'm always looking for an edge. And look, injury, travel, those are always going to be big. I understand that. But, you look for something, you look for a boost. And I don't mean like a bet boost. I mean like what's going on in the locker room, what's being talked about in these meetings, what type of advantage. A lot of times in college you'll see a coach is getting slighted. Guys are playing for in the against Alabama, like guys are playing for coaches, prime, what have you. My point being is that it's impossible for me to ignore what the New York Jets are carrying in this football game back to Denver, where we already saw another coach who worked with Nathaniel Hackett and Mike McDaniel send a little message to Sean Payton. This is a game. I honestly, I understand it's Zach Wilson, and I'm not here to explain away Zach Wilson, but I took, with plus money, I took the Jets just to win that game. And the biggest reason for me is there are people in that locker room that may only know Nathaniel Hackett this year, but they know that other squad has just totally destroyed him, and that there is going to be, and I guarantee you, Robert Saleh has brought this up. So it's not a revenge game for a player where I always follow a tail, something like that. But there is a sense of revenge, and Denver is prime, especially coming off that win against Chicago. Denver is prime for another letdown. So I got the Jets here defensively and with a little narrative.
I really like this. I call this, and I don't want you to take this the wrong way. I mean, I'm a person who believes that they actually have the same amount of cream in double stuffed Oreos as they do single stuffed Oreos. They just fluff it up. So I'm about to use the word conspiracy theory, but I frequently give conspiracy theory bets. I was yelling at everyone to bet on Stamkos, to win the Conn Smythe because they wouldn't let it go to Russia. I was screaming that to the heavens, and I have no legitimate proof of this, but
yep.
I like stuff like that because sometimes you got to think like that. So yeah, that is potentially something. You have to weigh that versus the old Zach Wilson on the road, but that can I guess you can make that assessment for yourself. But those are
look,
two.
Denver's not
those are two games.
Any doors off. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, those are two games that, once again, I'm happy that you brought to the table because I wouldn't have the balls to give advice on. So I appreciate that.
All good, my friend.
And
Man. Anything I
one
can
last
do.
thing, and then one last thing. If there was a show called I Almost Won the Millionaire, where you're watching somebody who's in the position, in like the DraftKings Millionaire, where they're like dropping in and out of it, you tell me that wouldn't be the most entertaining thing. Like, you know how people watch reaction videos?
Right.
There's not, because one catch or lack thereof drops you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I think that's a show that's got to be made at some point.
Yeah, I'm surprised that somebody isn't doing that, right? Like, don't all these sports books have their own TV networks, right? Kay Adams is all over, Gronkowski, these people. Like, you'd think that BetMGM, every time I'm on Twitter, I'm seeing a new show sponsored by BetMGM, from BetMGM. I'm surprised they don't have anything like that.
Sports books, all of you, and then I guess this only means two because those are the only ones with like a millionaire tournament. You should incentivize,
Right.
if you're in the top 50 and you like film yourself while it's going on, even if it's uploaded after the fact. Trust me, there is nothing better than the cursing that goes on or whatever, just the emotional roller coaster of somebody potentially, and these are mostly regular people. This isn't Brad Pitt playing the millionaire.
No,
Life-changing sums of money. That would be supremely entertaining. Just a thought from a sick individual.
I love it, man. I don't need to see Kevin Hart sweating out a ticket, by all means. I'm fine with that.
Hey, I really appreciate you coming on once again. I'd love to get you back.
Always.
If I'm back and you are cool coming on.
Look, even if you're not back, I'll find a way to get you back. How about that?
Beautiful. Sounds good. Thank you. So we got Jets in Houston.
Yep.
Just like everybody predicted early in the season.
Look, I took Baltimore when that thing opened at 3, but I think it'd be disingenuous to give out -3 since that thing moved. So that might just be a little thing. Come find me on the Discord because we get ahead of shit. We don't always hit shit, but we get ahead of shit.
And that's all one can ever ask for. All right, Eytan, thank you so much, man. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, E. Fly, Phillies, fly.
See ya.
Yeah, speaking of your game with Philly and LA, you know, there are 3 games that I think are moving the needle for people. You can call it an over-under perspective, but I always usually say like a DFS perspective. They're trying to stack players in the high-scoring games, and those 3 have the highest point totals on the Sunday slate for the day games, the ones in the 4s. And the one that I'm predicting to bust of those 3 is going to be that Rams-Eagles game, because people are pointing to the fact that the Eagles secondary is not that good and they're giving up tons. But what I'm seeing from Stafford every single week is a guy, every time they get away from something that resembles a 50-50 balance, that line is getting engulfed just like it did last year. He barely made it through the last game. They lost the week before because the Cincinnati Bengals line was absolutely destroying them. And if the Eagles line plays even remotely like it can, I think Stafford's going to look up and have 50 people in his face. So I don't think it's going to be this back and forth score fest that people are predicting, but I guess, we will see.
I'll actually be out there for the game, and maybe if our next guest is lucky, I will stop by and say hello to him and give him a big.
You're not gonna talk to him. He's gonna be in Soho House, and when you call and say, "Oh, I know Eric from Lindy's Locks," he's gonna give you like, "Wait, well, who's that? Who's?" And he's just gonna stumble towards the other bar.
I'm going to the game someday.
At the then we will see each other. We can touch our Phillies and Twins hats, but hey, let's not bury the lead, ladies and gentlemen. Eric Lindquist.
What's going on, Eric?
Not much. Yeah. I got playoff baseball in my life. It is a beautiful time to be alive. Twins, Astros, Saturday. Can't believe we broke the curse finally. It's been more than half my life ago, but I had been at every single Target Field, every single Metrodome playoff game for the last 25 years until the last 2. So I think I'm just going to stay away. I'm going to stay away. I'm going to do my own thing, not fly back for any playoff baseball, but God, it's a great time to be alive.
I played detective with Laffy a couple weeks back. I'm going to do it once again.
Is that like a role-playing game, or is that?
Well, we figured out that Deshaun Watson's burner wasn't Deshaun Watson. That's what we did. We did a little true detective, and not that this one's going to take that much of a brain experiment, But my guess is, with you being a Vikings fan and a Twins fan, you're from the Minnesota area.
Both my parents are. And then I grew up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Went to school at Iowa State, so straight down the freeway there in Ames, Iowa. 3-hour drive up to Minneapolis. It's about 3.5 from Sioux Falls there. But my entire childhood was, weekends would go up, get nosebleed seats at the Metrodome for Vikings games, for anything. And then obviously the Target Center too for the old NBA streets. The Timberwolves are really my true love, my true passion. They still are. It's a disaster. It's a disaster.
The slight disappointment I have is I love meeting people from your neck of the woods because it's one of the areas in this country, there are a few of them, where it's hockey country. And it's just interesting, I guess you defaulted the other way. You are the Minnesota equivalent of what I am for New York. You're the guy who veered towards, the basketball and baseball and stuff like that, where in New York, hockey's the last of the big four. So I feel
I was going to say Minnesota. So it's also taking over Sioux Falls right now. For those that want to hear a little Sioux Falls, South Dakota business going on, Augustana College, where everybody in my family except for me went, they just got Division I hockey out of the middle of nowhere. It's the only one that was Division II. They've been Division II for every sport forever. They didn't even have a hockey program. And so many kids are starting to play up there, and they're so talented. Obviously, Minnesota coming over, North Dakota coming over, that they started a Division I hockey program, and they're going to be ranked right from the get-go. They are ridiculously good. So shout out that Augustana College for firing that up from the get-go. I'm excited to go home and watch a couple games.
Are you excited to go home and watch the Vikings host the Chiefs?
No. I will not be doing it. I was going to say, I'm keeping my mind off of that by attending the Eagles-Rams game this weekend.
Man, these Vikings are one of these teams. It's got to be so infuriating because whether it's going to be the Panthers or the Chiefs, watch this thing somehow come down to like the last drive or two in the second half.
It won't. Our defense is not the New York Jets defense. So everything that people watched last weekend, I don't really think it applies going into this Sunday. I think it's going to get lopsided. I just kind of have that feeling about it. I'm not going to be betting on it, but my Lord, it's got to be. It's just an infuriating thing because now there's nothing I can really do. Patrick Mahomes is just going to become our daddy for a day.
Even if it does, I'm thinking about these Vikings game. Like Justin Jefferson doesn't idiotically fumble that ball going towards the end zone against the Eagles. They're going into the locker room like up 4 opposed to down 7. And it has just been a series of unfortunate circumstances. Like it was a classic screwed themselves week 1 by not playing well against a beatable team. And then it just, that play before halftime, one play like that alters that's a 3-point ending if that touchdown stands. And yeah, unless Mahomes going up and down that field, I don't know, man. I think that 3.5 line always to me signals that thing's ending by 3. But I guess we will see. Sometimes it's a benefit to keep your emotionally invested teams off the board. So I'll steer away from there.
I'm already a disturbing person. My favorite bet of the entire week, it's not even remotely close. It's what Ben Raza, our friend here on Odd Chopper, would call a generational wealth spot. It's Carolina plus 10. I can't possibly tell you how much I love this play this week. It is the most I will have in an individual play, probably the entire NFL regular season.
That's fantastic. And I hope you put it in all caps because when I see you have tweets in all caps, I get excited. I don't know. I'm like, what is going on? I picture you laughing maniacally like the Joker. And I know you had your smile bit on this show, but just the way it comes out I just feel like you're laughing with fistfuls of cash into the night. I don't know why. But
then I'm going to Soho House, baby.
Baseball?
Always Soho House. Yes. No, here's the thing. This MLB wildcard series was an absolute slam dunk smash. Could not have been happier. Lindy's Leans Likes Locks 4-0 there coming out
And
on
leaks.
the game twos. And the leans. Yes, all of the things.
No, the
leans.
leaks.
The
Remember
leaks.
you had
Oh,
a leak
you're
or
throwing
two?
the leaks at the end for it. That's always great. Yeah, I got that on Twitter. That was fantastic.
Sorry, I'm a
but
prick.
for me, it's all caps because I'm an excitable person. I'm ready to rock, and I also feel like somebody who's invested watching all of the sports, talking about all of the sports. I just want to enjoy the sweat with everybody else too. And when you have these Hulk smashes, you have to just kind of create chaos, and it's just a whole thing. And I find the Joker bits to just be enjoyable because that's how I feel sometimes.
It's good.
about
No, they
sending a
stand
message
out to me. Trust me, if I'm reading a tweet about baseball, and it wasn't like, oh, let me research Eric before I come on so I'm well informed. No, it stood out to me on a random night. I'm like, what is he screaming about over there? And then I looked into it. I'm happy because if I'm doing stuff like that, I just live my whole life in an adversarial fashion. It's why I like The Rock and people. I always assume people are trying to screw me, and there's just a boardroom of people rooting against me. So if I'm doing that, it's in middle fingers to the world fashion. So I commend you doing it in a celebratory fashion. It's you guys from up there. Just I really wish I could be more like you. It's celebrating with opposed to against.
I just want your Street Fighter 2 machine. That's all I want. I want Street Fighter 2 next to my Mortal Kombat, next to my Cruisin' USA, which my father-in-law actually has at his place. He has a Cruisin' USA.
Cruisin'! When you fired that up and it started with that big Cruisin', man.
He has the Cruisin' the World
USA.
one too, which is just like
Cruisin'
the World. That's what it sounds like on the intro. It's really
I cheaped out. I obviously would have wanted Mortal Kombat. When I lived in LA, we had this random alcove. Like, what can we put? What fits in there? It's like it's too small for a bar. And we drove north of LA 2 hours to some guy who sold us a real NFL Blitz for a mere $350. Those machines go for like thousands. He's like, if you can trek your way up here, then it's yours. And we trekked our way up there. And I don't know if people are actually familiar with how California works. It's a big misnomer. Everything's on the coast. You go inland anywhere, and you're in some interesting territories. I'm talking about coyotes howling in the middle of the night.
Breaking Bad territory.
Yes.
Straight up Breaking Bad. It's wild.
We went out
but
there
I will
to the
say,
factory.
NFL Blitz, if I could go back in time and just like take back all of the plays that I used to create and the custom plays thing, like the hours and hours and hours that I spent on that, because then eventually you just ended up running those just straight go routes, chucking it up in Blitz. Like that's what it always became. But like for some reason, I spent hours upon hours running intricate, the options and all of the different things that I used to do with the NFL Blitz machine. And then I would just run the same damn play every single time. I need those hours back. I need those back.
You were destined to be a good sports bettor. It was laying the foundation. You didn't realize why you were being so intricate with all the numbers and everything and all the combinations. And now you're applying that same philosophy to your sports, but you thought nothing of it at the time when they say, Mom, why do I have to learn square roots? And no, trust me, it's going to apply down the road. You never know. I think diagramming all those plays eventually helped you. Hopefully you were doing it a little better than Nathaniel Hackett. So you love that plus 10. I don't know. I don't know what the stat is. I think I just lie. I say this every year, but I'm pretty sure it's true. That if you've taken every NFL double-digit underdog since the beginning of time, it's over 50%, meaning you should never – I just try to tell people if they are taking double-digit favorites, just even if you don't want to bet against it, just maybe stay away. Like, it's so many points. Look at this league. Every single week, you're seeing the most absurd upsets. Anything can happen at any time, which is one of the best parts about the league, but is also one of the most terrifying parts of the league if you're like somebody who's always betting on favorites and whatnot. So I got zero issues with that plus 10. Anywhere else you want to point me?
Yeah, so that's kind of like been the basis. I mean, for me, my Thursday, my Friday are basically all just going through NFL numbers. I do a matchup show from a DFS angle, and then I get into the betting stuff. I try to bet lines earlier in the week, but I've found a lot of success now really hammering out Friday mornings and either trying to react to what the practice reports are showing or what I think they're going to show and being early to the gate. And Carolina, I think they are an absolute smash at 10 because some of these lines, as I'm starting to adjust them for having Amon-Ra out, he's currently still, just questionable. And currently he's not expected to practice, but that practice hasn't officially begun here. So we'll see exactly what happens here in Detroit, but I don't think he's playing football. And that is such an important cog because of how they utilize him, putting him in the slot, putting him outside. They can do so many things because Amon-Ra is that dude. I think that's probably a 2.5 point, 3 point type swing player. And there aren't many of those that exist in the NFL now. I think this will probably only move 1.5 points. If I had to guess, 8.5 ends up being the adjusted line for it. But then if they are in any way, shape, or form, Carolina going to be able to stop the run, David Montgomery, I mean, he just ran all over the Packers. So it might be a big if there. I think they have nobody to be throwing to besides Sam Laporta. They're also looking at Josh Reynolds, who's got a groin injury and could also be off the field. Your number one coming into this game could very well be Khalif Raymond. And that does not inspire any kind of confidence whatsoever for the Detroit passing game and Jared Goff here. He is at home. He's been dominant at home throughout his Lions tenure, but this is just too many points with the unknowns that could exist and that I expect to exist come Sunday.
Yeah, when you take a double-digit underdog, and if you get the opening kickoff, and whatever, somebody breaks a tackle, and you could be up 17 within minutes, and feel good for a nice chunk of the game, unless something absolutely crazy happens. But anytime you have a good feeling on a large underdog, including last night. Washington a couple weeks ago, we're thinking how many wins are they going to have this year? 3, and now all of a sudden, because they've had a couple of good, pretty good performances. I mean, if you look at 2 weeks ago, they got completely shut out, but we all just hit Control-Alt-Delete because we saw them play well against the Eagles.
Yep.
And then they came out playing. We got the Bills half in the first half, and then we kind of got the Eagles half in the second half. So,
I stay so far away from betting Thursday night football games. It's not even funny. I don't think I've had an outright on a Thursday night football game in forever. Yesterday, really only 2 plays. I was on Brian Robinson. That didn't go well. And then Justin Herbert, 26.5 pass attempts. That was a ridiculous line. That felt super, super low for the situation. He ended up going well north of it. Had 20 pass attempts in the first half. So are you
talking about Howell or?
Oh, no. Justin Fields. Over 26.5.
Oh, sorry. You said Justin Herbert. I was just.
Oh, my bad. My brain is now thinking ahead.
There's a Khalil Herbert out there. So, you just combined quarterback, running back.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. So I had, the Brian Robinson didn't go well. And then Justin Fields, apologized to him. He's been getting so much respect lately. He's not gotten much respect lately, but now they're letting him play more pickup basketball out there. I mean, I've said that repeatedly where Justin Fields is that guy who, when you go play pickup ball, you kind of know who's a dude. You can see. And Justin Fields has that ability. You just have to let him go play and don't structure anything that he does. And he can win you football games. Now, can he win you a championship eventually? No, but I think doing what he does under the right circumstances, actually having a number one now with DJ Moore there, he's never had that. There's Darnell Mooney all of last season. People don't forget, he was making something out of nothing there in Chicago at the very tail end of it. Didn't result in wins. That defense is atrocious. Everybody knows that as well. But I am excited about what he can do from a fantasy perspective going forward. But Caleb Williams would look awfully good for them too.
One last game that I just wanted to kind of run by you. Something's telling me, maybe it's these rotating noses here, that I don't know if they're going to win. But with the way the playoffs went the last 2 years, taking that 3.5, and I'm a Niners guy. I really love the way they run their team, everything they do, but something tells me you're going to get one of the hardest pushes for a good game that you're going to see out of Dallas. And I think people just assume those lost games in the playoffs. Look what Dallas did 2 weeks ago. They can get smacked out there. I think I'm going to take them at plus 3.5. I know.
See, these are the kind of games where these key numbers, 3, 7, 6, things of that nature, it gets so dicey at a certain point because I do feel like I would prefer San Francisco at 2.5 and I would prefer Dallas at 3.5. Doesn't that just scream stay away then?
That's weird. I look at it like when I get that, then I look at it the opposite. If it's minus 3.5, I'll stay away. If there's a team that I like and it's -3.5, I'll stay away. Like the Chiefs, I'm staying away. And then if it's +2.5, like the goddamn Giants the other night, you're only getting 2 at home. But if it was 3.5, I could say, maybe if it goes down to a final field goal or something like that. So that's weird. I kind of look at it the opposite way. For example, Tennessee, if you like them playing Indianapolis, I would take a -2.5. And I know some people think like Indy's a good bet there, but these rat bastard Titans, I promise you, every single year, they're hovering right around 500. They're going to be right around there one way or the other. Yeah. And I kind of like how their pass defense, but the whole thing has been about their pass defense being garbage. And I know it's just one game, but showing a little improvement last game. And you don't have to be the best pass defender against Indianapolis. You kind of got to worry about Richardson on his feet using his wheels, and I think the Titans might be able to handle that well. I think the Derrick Henry stuff was overblown. I think against good defensive lines, he's going to have trouble. Against teams like Cleveland, yes. Against teams where that's not really the case, I still think he can have a big day. He had a massive day. This could be one. Doesn't he notoriously murder Indianapolis? So I think that witch's brew I was talking about from before from Hocus Pocus might brew up a Vrabel win this weekekend.
I did not hear that bit, but now I'm going to have to go back and listen to it. That's for sure. Because anytime
just if there's multiple things, if there are multiple things, like for example, for you, your witch's brew would be Amon-Ra ain't going to be playing. There's double digit on it. It's like all roads lead to Rome. That's what it's like all the ingredients. Sometimes I call it the perfect storm, like George Clooney style. It's just
look at that. I like that movie reference. Obviously, that's pretty stellar little cast you had going there. Also, they don't make movies like that anymore. I want to watch people earn it. Like I want you to go out in the elements and get drenched for your dollars. Like that's what I want to see. I don't want to see any of this CGI BS. Put you in a strap and comfortable. Like shout out Tom Cruise. He's a real one for being 70 years old and still doing all his stunts. Like what are we doing here, sir?
I want to see someone on that fucking Hyannis Pier, and I want to see them. I want to see them with some clam chowder getting out there in that fucking boat.
There you go.
100%.
Before we get out of here, are my wild? What are we going to get from Copy? Like, what are we going to do this season? Are we going to do anything, or are we going to play the most boring hockey ever again?
Or the Minnesota Wild?
My Minnesota Wild.
Last year was one of the most commendable years ever because the problem is they're limited by the cap situation by having to buy out Suter and Parisi, and they're making they had a great player in Fiala that they had to trade away because of that damn cap crunch, and they got a good return on it and whatnot, but it prevents you from taking that next step. So they rely so heavily on that top line with Kaprizov. As an Islander fan, I'm going to put you through the same type of thing. Number one, do you want to win or do you want to kind of try to be exciting? The more exciting you try to be, the worse your record's going to be because you don't have that many, talented top 6 players. So what I think you're going to get, and as a true hockey fan, I like this, but as a casual, you might not. You're going to get a disciplined, hardworking team that's going to make it difficult to beat you every night. It's just unfortunate that their playoff matchups are brutal. Like they played the Stars, who were almost in the Stanley Cup final. A great team. They're one of the Stanley Cup favorites this year. Tough matchup. They were going back and forth, ended up losing in 6. It's tough to see the Wild going, making the playoffs. Absolutely. I think they're absolute to make the Western Conference Finals. You have to beat Dallas and Colorado back to back, and then Edmonton potentially. It's just a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Yep. It's a disaster. Sounds like Minnesota sports. Hey, perfect.
I will say this. If they were in the opposite conference, if they were in the East, they could beat the Rangers and then beat a team because they match up well.
Yep.
The problem is some of those teams in the West, they're heavy. They're top heavy, and that's tough to play them.
Vegas, again, Kings can be on a nightly disturbance.
Yeah. The good thing about hockey, though, is will often beats skill. And if you catch that right stride in the playoffs, you really can go far. I do feel bad for Minnesota because they have loyal fans and they've put some awesome seasons on the board. And if they were in New York, I've referenced them before, their fans would be like hanging heads on spikes if they had that many years in a row and weren't able to advance. I mean, if anyone's at home, even if you're not a hockey fan, just if you're a fan of other people's pain, look how many first round exits the Minnesota Wild have had since like the mid 2000s with great records. One time they were number 1 in the West, and they got a semi curse that they got to buck the trend in the near future. So
fingers crossed. Hopefully.
Hey, the Twins just did it, so anything's possible.
Anything is possible. 21 years later, breaking the curse. It's about time.
That could be the sign. They may have bulldozed their way through.
Yep.
Okay.
There's no hope for the Vikings, though. Let's be dead serious.
All right. So the last bet we're going to give you, Minnesota Wild futures. They will make it to the conference semifinals.
They will only be so good. That's all that I heard. That's what I heard. All right.
Well, I appreciate everything you guys brought to the table today. Really, this is kind of a
we had the Blair
week.
Witch Project before me. That was enjoyable. I got to watch Poetry in Motion there from Eytan.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, at the end of the video, he was just standing in the corner.
Eytan gives 0 fucks. You gotta love it.
One of the all-time great scams was convincing people that, like, no, it's like a realistic movie. I could have made that as a senior in high school. People can be convinced anything. They can be convinced anything. And on that
anytime
note,
you could just change your...
That's amazing.
Literally
all right, everybody, thank you so much for coming back. One thing I wanted to tell you before, if you have a gambling problem, you got to call or text. I'm really fascinated with this texting. You got to text 1-800-GAMBLER. I hope they respond to you quickly. I would imagine they respond quickly. It'd be pretty bad if they didn't. So if you got a problem, try texting. If they don't respond, then call them. It's very important because, you can get all tilted. Like if you lose like I did last night, you should always make sure that people around you are keeping each other in check. Like if I start going off the rails, Lindy, he'll take me to Soho House, and he'll get my mind off, and Mike will take me to somewhere in Philly, maybe that we're not allowed to talk about on this show. But until next time, guys, thank you so much for coming back. As always, do me a Jack Klumpus personal favor. Do me a personal favor. Tell people about the show, share it with them, let them know about it. If you're having a good time, let us know about it. If you have any questions, if you have anything you want me to say, comment it. I will read it. Yes, I will sort through the minefield. If someone call me a scumbag, hurry up, get to the picks. But then I'm going to be giving you all caps text, and they're not going to be friendly like Lindy's. So let me know how you're feeling in the comments there. If you want me to talk about anything, I will be sure to check that out. Thank you so much. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel here, my YouTube channel, my social media. It's like the name you see on the TV in the back, at Andy Francess on all social media platforms. Always a pleasure to have you back. I will be back with you next week, as long as they still allow me to walk the plank. Take it easy. Have a good one, and good luck in this week 5 bye weeks.